Dark Tale of Annabelle is one that sends shivers down the spine, not just for the horror movie adaptations, but for the real-life events that have haunted those who've crossed paths with her. The eerie figure of Annabelle, one of the most infamous demonic dolls in recent history, has carved her place into the world of paranormal lore. If you've ever felt an uneasy chill while watching her sinister portrayal on screen, it's not just the doll's unnerving presence that makes her terrifying. There's something darker that lingers, something that has left a trail of fear, skepticism, and fascination. It all began in 1970 with an innocuous gift from a mother to her daughter, a nursing student, a seemingly harmless Raggedy Ann doll. But that doll would soon come to carry a curse far worse than any of its innocent looks suggested. The two young women, living together in an apartment, had no idea that this gift would disrupt their lives in the most horrifying ways imaginable. It was supposed to be a cute and sentimental gesture, but soon the doll began to move. It wasn't just an occasional shift in position. The doll, this raggedy thing that looked as though it had been sewn together from forgotten scraps of fabric, started appearing in places it shouldn't be. It was as though it had a mind of its own. The roommates began noticing that Annabelle would be on the couch one moment and on the bed the next, or perhaps sitting by the window staring into the nothingness of the apartment. But these were just the first signs of something far darker. Then strange things began to happen in the apartment. The roommates would find notes written on parchment paper, odd and unnerving notes that read simply, "Help me." There was a problem though. Neither of them had parchment paper, so where was it coming from? What force was writing these cryptic messages, and more chillingly, why was it choosing them? But what truly escalated the terror was the physical violence. The boyfriend of one of the roommates, a young man named Lou, woke one night to find scratches on his body, deep, angry gashes that appeared to have been carved by an unseen hand. The marks were unexplainable. Lou was adamant that he had not hurt himself, but the marks were real, jagged, vicious, and unmistakably human. And this wasn't the end. Desperate for answers and shaken by the growing horror, the girls sought out a medium, hoping to make sense of the events unfolding around them. What happened next only made things worse. During a seance, the medium claimed to have contacted the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had died years earlier at the age of 7. The medium, however, was unaware that the doll they were inquiring about was actually named Annabelle. The connection seemed too perfect to be a coincidence. According to the medium, Annabelle's spirit had somehow become trapped within the doll, and it seemed the spirit wasn't exactly a benevolent. In fact, the girl wanted to be friends with the roommates, but the terrifying reality was that this wasn't just a lost, lonely spirit. The girl was merely a vessel for something much darker, something demonic. This is where the real horror began. The medium revealed that the doll wasn't merely an innocent ghost, but a conduit for a powerful demonic force. The more the girls became involved with the doll, the more they invited evil into their lives. The demon's intentions were not merely to haunt them, but to take control. The spirit inside Annabelle was not some helpless ghost seeking peace. It had its eyes set on something much darker, a human host. And this realization came too late. The Warrens, Ed and Lorraine, famous paranormal investigators, were brought in to assess the situation. The couple, known for their high-profile cases and their work on some of the most terrifying hauntings in history, took the doll from the apartment and brought it back to their own home. Ed and Lorraine Warren, however, didn't just take the doll for safekeeping. They knew what it was. They knew it was no ordinary toy. The two paranormal investigators had encountered demons before, but there was something particularly sinister about Annabelle. And while the Warrens were often met with skepticism for their work, there was something about the doll that seemed to validate their claims. After taking her from the apartment, the Warrens' car experienced a series of bizarre malfunctions. The brakes failed, the engine sputtered and stalled, all while they were driving the doll back to their occult museum. But it wasn't the only incident linked to Annabelle. Ed and Lorraine Warren decided to lock Annabelle inside a glass display case, hoping to contain the evil within. The case had a warning sign: positively do not open. But despite this caution, people still found a way to get too close. In one tragic case, a young man visited the museum, ignored the warnings, and reportedly mocked the doll. 3 hours later, he was dead, killed in a motorcycle accident. It seemed as though Annabelle had claimed another victim. Despite the lack of concrete evidence linking the doll to the tragedy, the Warrens remained convinced that it was Annabelle's curse that had caused the accident. They insisted that the doll was capable of causing death and destruction. Lorraine Warren, in particular, was adamant that the doll was not just a source of terror, it was a threat. She warned people for years not to approach Annabelle, not to look her in the eyes. The belief that the doll had power was reinforced by Lorraine's daughter, Judy, who, in interviews, confirmed her mother's warnings. She was told never to gaze into Annabelle's eyes, a warning she still heeds to this day. But the story didn't end there. In 2020, rumors began circulating that the real-life Annabelle doll had somehow escaped from her case. People claimed she had vanished from the Warrens Museum, and the story quickly became an urban legend. It was the kind of rumor that grabbed hold in a time of uncertainty, feeding off the anxiety and strange energy of the year. However, Tony Sparrow, the Warrens' son-in-law, quickly debunked the story. Annabelle had never left the museum, and Sparrow reassured the public that security measures were in place to prevent any such escape. Still, the fact that this rumor spread so widely tells you something about the power of Annabelle's legend. It speaks to the public's fascination with the origins of evil and the allure of the unknown. In the world of horror, some stories are so terrifying that they take on a life of their own, becoming more real than the events they're based on. Annabelle is one such story, a tale that continues to frighten and fascinate us, whether we believe in the supernatural or not. So is Annabelle real, or is she simply the stuff of nightmares? Whether you choose to believe the Warrens or dismiss them as charlatans, the story of Annabelle the doll remains one of the most chilling in modern paranormal history. It is a tale of a cursed object that has left a legacy of fear, and its terrifying presence lingers in our imaginations long after we've turned off the lights. For some, the terror is not just in the doll, but in the thought that something beyond our understanding is always waiting, lurking, watching, and ready to strike. Annabelle's haunting story continues to fascinate, and as long as the legend persists, so too will the fear of the demonic force she embodied. After all, some legends, no matter how many years pass, refuse to die.